Okay, so now we will discuss the fourth part of the week 1 online lecture recording video. In this particular video, we will discuss what needs to be considered when we design and develop a particular process flow sheet for a particular process. In this video, we will discuss the synthesis of the toluene hydrodealkylation process. So this hydrodealkylation process becomes actively used following World War II when large quantities of toluene becomes available. Normally this toluene is used to make an explosive TNT, but because World War II has passed at that time, then becomes available to produce benzene, which was used as a precursor to manufacture cyclohexane, a precursor for nylon. Nylon is a particular polymer. Okay, so in this particular slide, we are showing two reactions. The principal reactions where the toluene becomes benzene is also accompanied by the side reactions where the benzene produced becomes biphenyl. Okay, and then here we are showing you the chemical formula of the benzene, and then also a toluene, and then the biphenyl. This process is called dealkylation because we are producing a benzene that has no methyl functional groups. Okay, so this is called dealkylation process. Okay, whereas toluene is the raw material, benzene in here and the biphenyl in here is the products. And you can see that there is a melting point for each of these three compounds given in here. So at the room temperature, benzene will be liquid because room temperature is around 23 to 25 basically. Toluene as well, because the melting point is minus 93 degrees Celsius. So if the melting point is lower than the room temperature, then they should exist as a liquid. Biphenyl, on the other hand, exists as a solid at room temperature because the melting point is 69.2 degrees Celsius. Okay, and then from the laboratory data, we get that the irreversible reactions without catalyst occurs between 1200 and 1270 Fahrenheit. Okay, so in America, they often use degrees Fahrenheit instead of the degrees Celsius. About 75 mole% of toluene converted to benzene, while about 2 mole% of the benzene that is produced from the reaction 1 is converted to biphenyl. The plant capacity, assuming that there is a conversion of about 274.2 pound-mole per hour of toluene, we can calculate this based on annual production capacity by assuming 330 days of operation per year, and you basically produce about 200 mega million pound per year. So the first steps is that we do in here is, instead of, before we go into the detail of the process inside to consider the reactions or basically to check what kind of separation process or everything that is needed, we make a boundary over the overall process in here. Okay, so the boundary of the overall process in here, we define how much is the toluene that you put into the process, and then also the hydrogen, and then we will know how much of the methane is produced, and then also the toluene and then the biphenyl. In reality, it's not simple like this. Okay, we don't know this quantity in the beginning. Okay, I put another video below this video that basically describe and derive the mass balance in here. Okay, if we are given this particular amount of the hydrogen and this particular amount of the toluene, then we can use basically we can use that component balance. One is a C and the other one is the H. Okay, and then with these two component balances, And then we have three unknowns. We have this F1, F2, and F3. Then we need to set another assumptions, and then we will be able to basically check the capacity of the overall process before we go into the details. Okay, so I would encourage you to look at the video below this part 4 video, okay, to see how those mass balance should be performed. Okay, on the next stage, after we get that overall picture of what the input of the chemicals into the system and what the output of the chemicals from the system, then we need to think about we need to look closer into the systems, or look into more. We need to basically look into the more detailed part of the systems. And we know that the reaction is exothermic, so a large amount of heat is released, and then there is a possible carbon deposition. So to help with this carbon depositions, then we can basically return some of the hydrogen gas from the outlet into the inlet, okay, and also in the process to basically prevent a build-up of the gas. And since hydrogen exists simultaneously with methane, we will not separate methane from hydrogen, because the separation of the methane from hydrogen requires a special separation process that can be achieved only using different technologies, such as probably membrane or adsorption, and it will make the process becomes non-profitable if we separate these two gas components. So at this moment, we just let the methane exist with hydrogen. And then the toluene cannot be wasted again, because it's forming precious raw material. Okay, so it has to be returned to the inlet. So looking more closer into the systems, then we can see that from the hydrogen and the methane that is produced in here, they have to be returned back into the input. So it's basically recycled. And then among these three liquid products that is produced, then the toluene have to be returned back into the input as well. Okay, so this here we have get from the material balance. This one also we get from the this two is actually we get from the specifications, and then these three in here we get from the material balance and the assumption. So then we have a closer look, and we basically make more refinement into the process flow sheet as well. Now we know that there is two recycle within our process flow sheet as well, and then we also know the heat liberated by the reactions, okay, and then the temperature on the reactors, and then how much is the toluene that should be recycled back into the system. Based on these calculations, again, you can similarly carry on a material balance to figure out the how much of the toluene that needs to be returned back into the inlet. Okay, toluene cycle stream can be calculated because you have the 75 mole% conversion and complete recovery. And then heat of reactions as well can be calculated using Aspen Plus. Okay, using RS Stoic subroutine. And then we can move on into to basically figure out the separation operations. So there is a gas and liquid product, so we can use a flash separator to separate the gas and the liquid. And then the liquid products, they all have a difference in terms of the boiling point, so we can use distillations to separate them. And what remains is the pressures of the distillation column, which is limited by the bubble or the point of the vapor streams. And we can check that thing using the Aspen Plus, for example. So then we can come up with this particular more detailed separation process in here. So we put in flash separator in here, as well as the distillation column 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so knowing that this C6H6, C7H8, and then C12H10 has a different boiling point, then we can figure out what are the streams that is that should be contained in each of the streams. So for example, if I call this stream is stream A, then A should contain CH4, H2, C6H6, C7H8, and then C12H10. Okay, we open these things again. We know that they have a different, these three components in here has a different boiling point in here, and then this CH4 and H2 will be coming out as the top product of the distillation column 1. So the bottom product of the distillation column 1 will have three components: C6H6, C7H8, and C12H10. C6H6, C7H8, and C12H10. So C6H6 has a lower boiling point, so this comes out in as a top product of this distillation column 2, and then the bottom product of the distillation column 2 will have C7H8 and C12H10. Okay, we note that this one is 110.6 degrees Celsius, and then this one is 255 degrees Celsius. So the top product of the distillation column 3 will be, in this particular scenario, it will be a C7H8, or the toluene, that is recycled back into the inlet. Okay, and then the bottom product in here will be the biphenyl, C12H10. So basically, by the configuration that is shown in here, we can tell that basically the temperature of the distillation column 1 is lower than the temperature of the distillation column 2, which is lower than the temperature of the distillation column 3. Okay, so this is very important that you use this kind of rational logic. And in this particular sequencing of the distillation column, we assume that there is no azeotrope a mixture form. If not, then we need to use another special distillation columns to do the separation. Okay. Then we continue again to the next step. Now we figure out the details surrounding the reaction operations. In order for a stream to move from a point A to point B, then the pressure should be higher at the point A than that at the point B. So as you want to basically recycle this gas from the flash into the inlet point, then you need to make sure that the point basically the initial, it has a higher pressures from these points to the inlet point. As a result, we need to add a pressure change operations in here, and likewise from the inlet into the reactor, because the temperature of the reactor is much higher, then we need to increase the temperature at this particular point, and then also increase the pressures to make sure that the pressure at this particular point is higher than the pressures in the reactor. Likewise, after the reactor, the temperature needs to be reduced, and then the pressure needs to be reduced further again to be the same with the pressures in the flash. So this is also forming an important part of your process flow sheet as well. Okay, so we have basically in here three main points where pressure and or temperature change exists. Okay, and then the next step will be the task integration, so combination of operations into a process units. After the product comes from the reactor, it's a very hot product. In order for us to basically prevent use the expensive heat exchanger, then we can just quench the product stream that comes out from the flash tank with the product reactor, okay, to just decrease the temperature, and then the temperature of the stream will be exchanged with the feed stream as well, so that the temperature of the feed stream can be increased while this one is decreased before it goes through the furnace. Okay, and then a portion of the vapor product is also purged and another is recycled. We purge in here because we want to avoid the productions of the formations of the build-up of the gas in the systems, while the other one is in recycled back into the system. And then also gas-fired furnace to heat the feed from heat exchanger to reactor temperature. Okay, so that this part is very important because As we can see, after we are figuring out the separations now, we also need to basically think about this task integrations, okay? And that basically what is happening with the process flow sheeting. So you start from the bigger view first, from the overall view, then you go and you look into the something that is more smaller, macroscopic, and then as you go and keep on doing all these things, then you figure out the details one by one, okay? And then you will get in the process plan design later on something related with the heat integrations, where you are dealing with the with more detailed heat integrations between the streams. With this video, then I conclude my video for week 1. I hope you can contact me if you have any questions about this week 1 materials. Thank you for listening.